She said, "Let's watch a movie," but the way she sat beside me made the air feel heavier than anything playing on the screen. I had been over at her place plenty of times before. It never felt unusual. She was the kind of neighbor who remembered birthdays, the kind who offered leftover pie after holidays. But that night was different. Maybe it was because the house was quieter than usual. Maybe it was because her husband was away on another business trip. Or maybe it was because I had started to notice things about her I hadn't let myself notice before. Her name was Claire, mid-40s, a little older than my mom, but nothing about her ever felt old. Her hair was pulled back loosely, strands slipping down her face as if she couldn't be bothered to tame them. She wore a plain t-shirt and soft-looking sweats, the kind of outfit that was supposed to signal comfort. But on her, it looked like something else entirely. I was 23, sitting stiffly on her couch like a kid waiting for permission to move. The movie started, but I couldn't have told you what it was about. I was too aware of her. The way she tucked one leg under herself, angling slightly toward me. The way she laughed at a scene that wasn't even that funny. The way her hand, resting on the armrest, was only inches from mine. I told myself not to overthink it. She was just being friendly, just filling the silence of an empty house. But then, halfway through, she shifted closer. Not enough for our bodies to touch, just enough for me to feel the heat radiating off her. I held my breath without meaning to. "You're too quiet," she said suddenly, eyes still on the screen. "Don't you like it?" "It's fine," I answered, my voice catching a little. Her lips curled, the ghost of a smile tugging at them. "You're a terrible liar." I looked away, hoping she wouldn't notice the flush in my cheeks. But she didn't press. Instead, she leaned back, sighing in that tired, heavy way people do when they're carrying more than they want to admit. For a moment, the space between us felt charged. Not because of what was happening, but because of what wasn't. I caught myself studying her in the glow of the TV. The small crease at the corner of her mouth. The way her fingers tapped absent-mindedly against her thigh, like she was holding something back. She seemed older in that light, not because of lines or age, but because of the weight she carried in silence. And yet, for the first time, I wondered if she felt just as restless as I did. My throat was dry, words piling up that I couldn't say. So I asked the easiest question I could think of. "Don't you get lonely when he's gone so much?" Her head turned slowly, her eyes locking on mine. It was too direct, too bold, and I knew it the second it left my mouth. But she didn't get angry. She just held my gaze, her expression unreadable, before answering in a low, quiet voice. "Sometimes." The single word was heavier than anything else she could have said. My chest tightened, the room shrinking around us. Neither of us looked back at the screen. The sound of a phone buzzing on the coffee table broke the moment. Her phone. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. She didn't reach for it. She just let it buzz until it stopped, her eyes never leaving mine. And in that silence, I realized we had just crossed into dangerous territory. ChatGPT said, the phone stopped buzzing, but the silence it left behind clung to the room. Claire didn't move to explain, and I didn't ask. Some part of me already knew the answer wouldn't matter. What mattered was the look in her eyes, the look that lingered too long, that carried something neither of us should have been entertaining. I shifted on the couch, forcing myself to glance back at the movie. Anything to stop my heart from beating so loudly. But my mind kept drifting. I'd had girlfriends before, short flings, messy endings. Nothing that left a mark deep enough to last. At 23, I told myself I wasn't looking for permanence yet. Still, the emptiness of my apartment, the silence of nights spent scrolling on my phone until I fell asleep. It got to me. Maybe that was why sitting here, beside her, felt different. Like I didn't have to fill the silence. Like I wasn't empty. Claire exhaled slowly, leaning back, her head tipping against the couch cushion. "Marriage isn't what you think it is," she murmured, almost to herself. The words landed heavy. I swallowed. "What do you mean?" She gave a soft laugh, humorless, fragile. People assume it's about love, but really, it's about holding things together even when the love runs thin. About pretending for the sake of keeping the life you've built. She paused, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. And sometimes that pretending gets exhausting. Her voice cracked, barely noticeable, but enough to make me ache in a way I couldn't explain. I wanted to say something comforting, but the words stuck. Instead, I just nodded, even though she wasn't looking at me. The risk between us was obvious now, even without spelling it out. She was married. I was far too young for her. And yet, here we were, sitting too close on a couch where a line should have been drawn. My thoughts tangled. This isn't right. She's older. She's taken. But another voice pressed back, quieter but stronger. Then why does it feel so right? Why does every second with her feel like it matters more than anything else? I caught myself staring at her again, the way her hand rested on her lap, fingers curling slightly, as if she wanted to reach for something but didn't. My own hand twitched against the couch cushion. I stopped it, forcing myself to clench it into a fist. She must have felt the weight of my gaze because her head turned. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Just eyes locked, breaths shallow, the movie flickering unnoticed in the background. Then she shifted slightly, her knee brushing against mine. It could have been accidental, but she didn't move it away. The contact sent a current through me, small, invisible, but undeniable. My chest tightened. Every warning bell in my head told me to lean back, to pull away. Instead, I stayed perfectly still, letting the warmth of her leg press against mine. She whispered, almost too softly to hear. "You remind me of someone you used to know. Someone who made me feel." She stopped herself, biting her lip, gaze dropping to the floor. Her unfinished sentence hung in the air, electric. I wanted to ask, to push, but I couldn't. The risk was already enough. So instead, I let my hand relax, brushing ever so slightly against hers on the armrest. Neither of us pulled away. And in that small, stolen touch, the silence between us said more than either of us dared to. The movie droned on, but neither of us was watching anymore. My hand still rested dangerously close to hers, fingertips brushing every so often like an accident we both knew wasn't. Every second felt heavier than the last, like gravity itself was pulling us together. Her breath hitched, just enough for me to hear. I turned my head, and suddenly her face was right there, closer than it should have been. Her lips parted, like she was about to speak, but no words came. For a heartbeat, I thought she was going to kiss me. Then, a knock at the door. She jerked back, nearly spilling the glass of wine in her hand. My pulse shot through me, hot and guilty. She glanced at me once, wide-eyed, before standing quickly. "Stay here," she whispered. I sat frozen, every nerve buzzing as I listened to her footsteps cross the hardwood. The door creaked open. "Claire," a man's voice, low, familiar. My chest tightened. Her husband. I shrank into the couch, holding my breath, praying he wouldn't walk in. "You're home early," she said, her tone casual, but too casual. "Work finish up fast." He grunted. "Yeah, thought I'd surprise you." Their voices floated closer. My palms were slick with sweat. If he came into the living room, it would all be over. But then she added, quickly, "I was just watching something. I'll be up in a bit." There was a pause. Then his footsteps moved away, heavier now, up the stairs. She shut the door softly and leaned against it, her shoulders rising and falling. When she turned back to me, her eyes held 1,000 things: fear, relief, guilt, longing. I stood because sitting suddenly felt impossible. "That was close," I whispered. She pressed her lips together, walking toward me. Too close. And yet she didn't stop moving until she was right in front of me. Her hand trembled slightly as she set the wine glass down on the table. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but the words didn't match the way her eyes searched mine. "Do you want me to go?" I asked. The silence stretched. She looked at the floor, then back at me. Her throat worked as if swallowing words she couldn't let out. Finally, she shook her head. No, that one word undid me. I reached up, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She closed her eyes at the touch, just for a moment, as though surrendering to something she couldn't fight. But then she stepped back, almost abruptly, wrapping her arms around herself. "We can't," she said firmly, though her voice cracked at the edges. I nodded, though every part of me wanted to argue, to close the space between us again. The pull was undeniable, but so was the danger. We stood in that tension, caught between desire and destruction, until finally she whispered, "Promise me, you won't say anything. About tonight. About us." Her use of us lit something dangerous in me. But before I could answer, the sound of footsteps creaked upstairs again, heavier this time. And just like that, the air between us was charged once more, closer to breaking than it had ever been. The night after her husband returned, I told myself I wouldn't go back. I paced my apartment, trying to shake the memory of her eyes, her voice, that trembling no that hadn't sounded like a no at all. I swore I'd keep my distance, but I couldn't. By midnight, I was outside again, standing on her porch like a fool. The light in the living room was on, and through the sheer curtain I could see her moving, slow, restless, like she couldn't sleep either. When she finally opened the door, she didn't look surprised, just tired. "You shouldn't be here." "Then tell me to leave," I said. Her silence was the answer I didn't want but already knew. She stepped aside, and I walked in. The house was too quiet. Upstairs, her husband's muffled snores carried down the hall. The risk was insane, but my pulse only quickened with every sound. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. Her arms were crossed tight, like she was holding herself together. "I can't stop thinking about you, and I hate myself for it." Her confession knocked the air out of me. I moved closer before I could stop myself. "Do you think I don't feel the same? I can't sleep. I can't focus. All I see is you." Her eyes flicked toward the stairs, then back to me. Fear and longing warred across her face. "If he finds out, I don't care." I cut in sharper than I meant to. My voice dropped, low and trembling. "I can't stand the thought of you lying beside him, pretending it's enough. Pretending you don't want this." Her lips parted, stunned. A flush crept up her neck, anger or desire. I couldn't tell. "Don't," she breathed. "Don't say things you can't take back." But I already had. The silence stretched, thick with everything unsaid. I reached out, my hand grazing hers. She didn't pull away. Her fingers trembled, curling ever so slightly toward mine. "I know it's wrong," I whispered, "but tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll walk out that door right now." Her chest rose and fell, uneven. Her eyes glistened, reflecting the dim glow of the lamp. She opened her mouth, hesitated, closed it again. Finally, she whispered, "I can't." The words hit like fire. My throat tightened, my chest too full to breathe. I moved closer, close enough to feel her warmth, close enough that one wrong move would shatter everything. Upstairs, the floor creaked. Both of us froze, hearts pounding. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes locked on mine with a desperation I had never seen before. And in that charged second, suspended between fear and desire, I leaned in, just before everything broke. ChatGPT said. The sound of the creak upstairs lingered like thunder in silence. Both of us stood frozen, waiting for another sound. But none came, just the faint rhythm of her husband's snoring. She exhaled shakily and stepped back, her hand slipping from mine. "You have to go," she whispered, panic flickering in her eyes. I should have left. I should have walked out that door and never looked back. But then her phone buzzed on the table. One new message lit up the screen. It wasn't from me. It wasn't from him. It was from her daughter. The preview glowed in the dim light. "Mom, I saw you through the window." "Who is he?" My stomach dropped. Her face drained of color. She grabbed the phone like she could erase the words just by holding it tighter. "She knows," I said, my voice rough. No, she couldn't have. Her words broke, half whispered, half sobbed. She turned away, clutching her temples. She was supposed to be at her friend's tonight. She wasn't supposed to. Her panic wasn't about her husband anymore. It was worse, more dangerous. She won't tell, I said quickly, desperate to soothe, desperate to believe it. She wouldn't. You don't understand, she snapped, then immediately softened. She's my daughter. She's smart. She won't let this go. She'll ask questions. She'll look at me differently. I'll lose her. The weight of it pressed down on both of us. This wasn't just a secret between two people anymore. It was a crack spreading, threatening to break everything open. I stepped closer, lower my voice. Then let me take the blame. If it comes to that, say, I came over, that I forced it, that you didn't want me here. Her head whipped around, eyes blazing. Don't you dare. Don't you ever say that again. The rawness in her voice hit deeper than I expected. For a moment, there was no fear, no shame, just something fierce and protective. Not for herself, for me. That realization twisted everything inside me. She wasn't just scared of being caught. She was scared of losing me too. The silence stretched, heavy and unsteady. She pressed her phone to her chest, pacing in small, restless steps. Finally, she whispered, I have to talk to her. Alone. I nodded, throat tight. But as I moved toward the door, she reached out, catching my wrist. Her touch was light but desperate, her eyes searching mine like she wanted me to stay, like she wanted me to fight her decision. For a second, the world held still. Then she let go. I stepped out into the night, the cool air biting at my skin. Behind me, I heard the faint click of the door shutting. But even as I walked away, I knew this wasn't over. The real danger had only just begun. The knock on my door came just after sunrise. I hadn't slept. Every sound of the night, cars passing, pipes rattling, had kept me waiting for it. When I opened it, she was there, pale and raw, her hair pulled back like she hadn't bothered with herself. She stepped inside without asking, closing the door behind her with trembling hands. She asked me. She whispered, voice breaking. My daughter. She looked me right in the eye and asked if something was going on. Elite. The words hung in the air like a confession neither of us wanted. I swallowed, my throat dry. What did you tell her? That you were just lonely. That you came over for company, and I didn't want to hurt your feelings. She believed me. Her hands were shaking, but I didn't believe myself. She finally looked at me, and the weight of her gaze hit like a storm. For months, I'd wanted to hear the truth in her silence, and now it was there, bare, undeniable. You think this can work? I asked, voice rising despite myself. You think we can keep lying forever? Her jaw tightened, eyes glistening. I think I can't lose her. She's my daughter. And I think, she faltered, taking a step closer. I think I can't lose you either. The contradiction tore at her, and for once she let it show. She wasn't composed, wasn't untouchable. She was breaking right in front of me. I reached out without thinking, my fingers brushing her wrist. She didn't pull away. Instead, she let the distance collapse, leaning into me like it was the only place she could rest. Say it, I whispered. Please just say it. Her lips parted, shaky, uncertain. I love you. The words weren't neat, weren't perfect. They were cracked open, messy, real. And for me, that was enough. I pulled her into my arms, and for a moment, the world shrank down to the two of us. The guilt, the risk, the years between us, it all blurred against the warmth of her body pressed to mine. But then she pulled back, just enough for me to see the conflict still raging in her eyes. We can't stay like this. Not hidden, not halfway. If I choose you, it changes everything. And if you don't, I asked, bracing for the answer I didn't want. Her silence was louder than any response. Finally, she cupped my face, her thumb brushing along my jaw as if memorizing me. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but right now, her voice cracked and then she kissed me. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't stolen. It was an answer. When we broke apart, breathless, she pressed her forehead to mine. If this ruins me, then let it ruin me. The choice was made, But the future, hers, mine, ours, was a question neither of us could name. The only certainty was this: we had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. The morning light slipped through the blinds, casting pale lines across her face. She sat at the edge of my couch, coffee untouched, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. For once, there were no lies between us, no borrowed excuses, just the silence that came after everything had been said. I told her the truth. She whispered finally, her voice small but steady. Not all of it, just enough. That I cared for someone I wasn't supposed to. That I made mistakes I can't take back. My chest tightened, and she cried. She yelled. But then she looked at me like I was human again. Flawed. Not a saint. Not a villain. Just her mother. Her eyes glossed with unshed tears. She said she needed time, and I told her I'd wait. There was no triumph in her voice, no easy victory. Just the heavy relief of someone who had carried too much for too long and finally let a piece of it drop. I moved closer, careful, unsure if I had the right. But she didn't flinch when my hand found hers. She squeezed back, almost absent-mindedly, like she was holding on to something she hadn't decided about yet. "You don't regret last night?" I asked, barely audible. Her laugh was broken, but real. If regret meant I didn't feel alive again for the first time in years, then no. I don't regret it. The air between us shifted. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was fragile, tentative like glass we were both afraid to break. "You don't have to choose right now," I said, surprising even myself. Not between me and her, not between yesterday and tomorrow. Just choose yourself. For once. That landed harder than I expected. She turned to me, really turned, and for the first time I saw her without the armor. Just a woman who had been hiding too long behind roles she couldn't escape. Her thumb brushed my hand, soft, lingering. "And if choosing myself means choosing you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The look of my eyes did it for me. We didn't kiss again. We didn't need to. The moment wasn't about passion anymore. It was about recognition. Two people who had stepped past the point of no return and were still willing to sit side by side in the wreckage. Outside, the world was waking up, neighbors starting cars, a dog barking in the distance. Ordinary sounds, almost mocking how extraordinary the night had been. She stood finally, smoothing her sweater like it might hold her together. At the door, she paused, glancing back. "This isn't the end. Whatever happens next, it can't be the end." And then she left, the door clicking shut behind her. I sat in the quiet, the weight of everything pressing in, and yet for the first time, hope lingered just as heavy as the fear. Back into Next Pointing Right if you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories. Your support keeps these stories alive and brings new ones every week.